Charles Ponzi. The name itself has become synonymous with financial fraud. Yet, in the Roaring '20s, it represented a chance at untold riches for thousands of hopeful investors. Ponzi, an Italian immigrant, arrived in America in 1903 with dreams of a better life. He bounced between odd jobs, always chasing the elusive promise of wealth and success. His early life was a tapestry of small-time schemes and minor offenses, but it was in Boston, amidst the post-war economic boom, that Ponzi would execute his most audacious plan, one that would etch his name in the annals of financial history. Ponzi's rise to notoriety began with a simple idea: international reply coupons. These coupons, part of a postal treaty, could be purchased in one country and exchanged for postage stamps in another. Ponzi claimed to have discovered an arbitrage opportunity. He would buy these coupons in countries with weaker currencies and redeem them in the United States for a profit. It was a compelling narrative, promising incredible returns in a time of economic prosperity. People were eager to invest, drawn in by the promise of easy money and fueled by word of mouth. Ponzi's scheme, however, was not a legitimate business venture. It was a carefully constructed illusion, a house of cards built on deception and destined for an inevitable collapse. His story is a cautionary tale, a reminder of the seductive power of greed and the importance of critical thinking in the face of too-good-to-be-true promises. The mechanics of Ponzi's scheme were deceptively simple. He promised investors a 50% return on their investment in just 45 days. This was an unheard-of return, far exceeding any legitimate investment opportunity at the time. People clamored to get in on the action, mortgaging their homes, withdrawing their savings, and pouring their life savings into Ponzi's venture. Here's how it worked. Ponzi didn't actually invest the money he received. Instead, he used funds from new investors to pay off earlier investors. This created the illusion of profit and fueled the frenzy. People, blinded by their desire for quick riches, ignored the warning signs. They saw their friends and neighbors getting rich and wanted a piece of the pie. The scheme, however, was unsustainable. It relied on a constant influx of new investors to keep the money flowing. As long as new money came in, Ponzi could maintain the facade, but the moment the flow of investors slowed, the entire structure would crumble. Ponzi's scheme, like all Ponzi schemes, was a financial house of cards, destined to collapse under its own weight. Charles Ponzi was a master manipulator. He understood the psychology of greed and knew how to exploit it. He wasn't a Wall Street tycoon hidden behind layers of complex financial jargon. He was a man of the people, charming, charismatic, and relatable. He spoke passionately about his own immigrant story, connecting with people on a personal level, and positioning himself as a self-made man who had found the secret to wealth. Ponzi cultivated an image of success. He drove expensive cars, wore tailored suits, and flaunted his newfound wealth. He used the media to his advantage, granting interviews and proclaiming the legitimacy of his venture. Newspapers ran stories of ordinary people becoming wealthy overnight, fueling the public's imagination and attracting even more investors. People wanted to believe Ponzi. He offered them something they desperately craved, a chance to escape their everyday lives and achieve financial security. His charisma, coupled with the tangible evidence of others getting rich, proved to be a potent combination, blinding investors to the inherent flaws in his scheme. As Ponzi's fame grew, so did the scrutiny. Financial experts began to question the legitimacy of his operation. They couldn't understand how he was generating such high returns in such a short period. The Boston Globe, skeptical of Ponzi's claims, launched an investigation. They hired Clarence Barron, a renowned financial journalist, to delve into Ponzi's dealings. Barron's investigation revealed that the number of international reply coupons in circulation couldn't possibly support the volume of investments Ponzi was claiming. He concluded that Ponzi was running a massive fraud, a classic pyramid scheme where early investors were being paid with the money of later investors. The Globe published Barron's findings, sending shockwaves through Boston. The news spread like wildfire, shaking the confidence of some investors. Yet Ponzi remained defiant. He denied all allegations, claiming to be a legitimate businessman targeted by jealous competitors and a biased press. His denials, however, were falling on increasingly deaf ears. The authorities took notice. The Massachusetts Bank Commissioner launched a formal investigation into Ponzi's operations, and the net began to close in on the king of deception. The walls finally closed in on Charles Ponzi in August of 1920. After weeks of mounting pressure and scrutiny, the facade crumbled. The Massachusetts Bank Commissioner, after concluding his investigation, ordered the closure of Ponzi's Securities Exchange Company. The news of the closure sparked panic amongst Ponzi's investors. What was once a steady stream of hopeful individuals lining up to hand over their life savings transformed into an angry mob demanding their money back. The realization that Ponzi's promises were nothing but elaborate lies hit hard. The man who promised them wealth had swindled them out of their life savings. Ponzi was arrested on charges of mail fraud, his grand scheme collapsing around him. The man who had captivated Boston with his promises of easy riches was exposed as a fraud. Newspapers, once enamored by his story, now detailed his downfall with a mixture of fascination and condemnation. Section 6. The Aftermath, Trials, Travels, and Imprisonment. The aftermath of Ponzi's downfall was chaotic. Investors scrambled to recover their losses, but most walked away with pennies on the dollar. The legal proceedings against Ponzi were lengthy and complex. His first trial on charges of larceny resulted in a guilty verdict and a 5-year prison sentence. While out on bail appealing the larceny conviction, Ponzi, in a testament to his audacity, launched another scheme. This time he targeted Florida's booming land market. His new venture, however, was short-lived. He was convicted of fraud in Florida and sentenced to a year in prison. After serving his Florida sentence, Ponzi faced further legal battles related to his Boston operation. He eventually pleaded guilty to federal charges of mail fraud in 1927. Following his release from prison in 1934, Ponzi was deported back to Italy. He died in poverty in Rio de Janeiro in 1949, a far cry from his days of extravagant wealth and notoriety. Section 7. A Legacy of Deception, Ponzi Schemes Today. Charles Ponzi's name lives on, not in the halls of financial success but as a warning sign. The term Ponzi scheme has become synonymous with financial fraud, a cautionary tale told and retold to prevent others from succumbing to similar scams. Despite its infamy, the Ponzi scheme, in its various forms, continues to plague the financial world. The allure of quick riches and the promise of beating the system prove to be timeless temptations. From small-time con artists to sophisticated operations spanning multiple countries, the legacy of Ponzi's deception continues to this day. The internet age has, in many ways, made it easier for these schemes to flourish. The speed of information, the anonymity afforded by the online world, and the global reach of the internet have created fertile ground for scammers. Section 8. Lessons learned. Recognizing and avoiding financial fraud. The story of Charles Ponzi offers valuable lessons for investors and the general public alike. The most important takeaway is the importance of skepticism, especially when faced with investment opportunities that seem too good to be true. Here are some red flags to watch out for. Unrealistic returns. Any investment promising consistently high returns with little to no risk should raise immediate suspicion. Complex or secretive strategies. Be wary of investments where the mechanics are unclear or shrouded in secrecy. Pressure to invest quickly. Legitimate investments don't require hasty decisions. Beware of pressure tactics that create a sense of urgency, lack of transparency, and documentation. Always demand clear and comprehensive documentation before investing your money. Remember, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Section 9. Ponzi's Enduring Shadow, a Cautionary Tale. Charles Ponzi's story, is a stark reminder of the human capacity for both greed and deception. His scheme, though audacious in scale, preyed on basic human desires: the desire for wealth, the fear of missing out, and the willingness to believe in something that promises a better future. Ponzi's legacy serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us that financial literacy, critical thinking, and a healthy dose of skepticism are essential tools for navigating the complex world of finance. By understanding the mechanics of Ponzi's scheme and the psychology that fueled its rise and fall, we can better protect ourselves and our communities from becoming victims of similar scams. The story of Charles Ponzi, the king of deception, continues to hold valuable lessons for us all.